your nutrition is fuel for your performance. Right. And we don't, especially with our young athletes, we don't look at it as, you know, with our adults, of course, they want to look good naked, but with our kids, obviously we're not looking at them naked. But with the kids, it's all about fuel as performance for your body. So when you're talking about, like, when they come in, our philosophy.
So what are the keys, some of the keys to finding that balance? Because obviously you want to train hard enough that, you know, you're going to make progress. Well, and you're going to do what you need to do, but not so hard to. You know,
I tell you what, I think that it's very important that in any training program, whatever you're training for, that you have rules. Okay? For me, like that's why I developed the methodology. I did that for me. You know, it worked out really good for everybody else, but I made that so I don't fucking kill myself. Because that's what I'll do. When I'm left to my own devices, I will fucking kill myself. I'll continue to go. I'll tell you what my training used to look like when I started, okay? When I did bodybuilding, at one point I would work up to 6 plates on squat, and I would do sets of 8 until I couldn't do sets of 8, and then I would do sets of 5, and then I would do sets of 4, and I would just continue to squat until I couldn't squat anymore. I would throw up every single time I trained. Fucking destroyed myself doing that. For over a period of 3 or 4 years I was doing that. You know, and if I could go back, like one thing I would change, if you talk about rewind the tape, yeah, not be a total psychopath, you know, kind of set myself some guidelines of, did I ever need to do that? No. There's no reason in the world I needed to do that. And it didn't benefit me.
Kayla, what's our PR rule?
2 PRs, no more than 2 PRs in the gym.
There's a rule.
It's a hard and fast rule. We never, with our training, with our clients, if we're doing something and you're just having that fucking amazing day, and all of a sudden, you know, it used to be 200 or whatever, and you do 205, and you're like, fuck, I crushed that. And you go 210, you're done. It doesn't matter if it was easy, it doesn't matter. Like, that's a hard and fast rule in our facility. Right. So, but with that, like, you shouldn't, if you're failing at like max effort lifts, I'm not talking about doing a set of fucking 12-pound curls for 100, like, if you're failing at max effort lifts in the gym all the time, you're fucking doing it wrong.
Yeah,
like you don't need to you can get very, very strong with minimal attempts in that 90% plus range. So you don't need to be living in that 90% plus range, because if you live in that range all the time, then you're gonna go to 101 one day and something's gonna fucking snap.
Yeah, I mean, even if it doesn't snap, even if you just fail, there's neurological consequences to maxing and failing, period. And it will affect, there's defensive inhibition, it'll affect your performance for weeks after that. It really does. Yeah. I mean, people are trying to, you got 3 weeks when you're not gonna be able to perform at a top level. So why, and what do you get if you get that lift in training? Nothing.
Because you can show up the next week and fuck train again.
Right, that's the thing. I mean, my thing is this, like, I don't even go into the 90% range in training. I haven't missed a lift off the platform in 5 years, you know, because there's no reason to. I don't need to. And I still PR. I had a PR, it was a body weight PR, but it was a weight class PR in a meet this year. You know, I'm doing this for 20 years, still PRing, you know, and.
To put it in perspective, so I squatted, last meet squatted 810, something like that. In the gym, I squatted 740 for a single, took 800, 810 with reverse bands one time, and that was it. There's no need for it. My body knows what I need to do to get to that point. Now, I have kind of everything dialed in, so I know where I'm going to be in training, where I'm going to be on meet day. But it's all about perspective. It's like, why are you doing what you're doing? So if my goal that day is to hit a heavy single, do I need to prove to myself that I can hit a PR in the gym today? Or do I need to say, okay, last meet I was about here. Maybe if I can add 5-10 pounds in the gym, I'll be good for X amount on the platform.
If ego is an issue too, and if you're looking for PRs, if you're desperate for PRs, fucking rep PRs, man. You can, I mean, it's still a PR. It still counts. Like with my stuff, the way that we have it set up, we should PR every cycle. And we do, usually on every lift. It might be a rep PR, but maybe that's the most reps that you've ever hit it that way. And that's still a PR, man. I promise you that will translate into a PR on the platform. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, like when you hit the 810, like what attempt do you usually go for that PR first, second, and third?
As far as how did I set it up in the meet?
Yeah.
Best advice I got from Steve was kind of your opener should be, for beginners, it's great advice. Your opener should be something you can hit for 3 reps in the gym. That doesn't really work for me. I'm not so much of a rep guy anyway. So about 90%. So if I hit 800 in the gym with reverse bands, I knew I needed to be 720-ish as an opener. So it might be 720, 760, 800, 810, something like that, where, you know, comfortable with a 50 pound jump, give or take.
I have a very specific way that I do that, where we do a peaking cycle going into a meet, where it'll be 4 cycles out, you'll hit 100%. And 100% referring to the most that you can hit in the gym without missing, okay? So we'll be working up to a max very carefully.
So almost a training max in a sense.
A training max, exactly. And that's a fatigued max, because that's after a series of mesocycles, so that you've accumulated a good amount of fatigue at that point, okay? And from there, as we dial back, we'll do like a 90, 80% and so forth going into the meet. And in the meet, I'll select attempts. First attempt will be 90% of what that training max was. The second will be 97%. And the third, for squat and deadlift, will be 104%. So you're actually doing 4% more than you did in training. And that's completely irrespective of what your PR is, because I don't really care. We got to work with where you're at right now. For bench press, I'll go over 102% now. Used to do 104, but I've been playing the numbers for a couple years now. And when I look back, I keep really meticulous records of everybody I work with and myself. And I've seen that more people will fail between 102 and 104% on bench press for whatever reason. Whereas pretty consistently, people are always going to hit 104% over that fatigue training max. So that's a good way to do it for beginners too, because regardless of what your PR is, you might not be really, you know, if you've never done a meet before, you don't even have a PR, realistically, you know.
Your first attempt's a PR.
Yeah, your first, getting 3 lifts makes you a power lifter. That's what I tell everyone. If you bomb out at your first meet, you're still not a power lifter. You got a total to do that, you know.
Nutritionally, I'm going to get my heavy lifts.
Right.
So how do you handle kind of nutrition, especially with the bodybuilding?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. Let me give you a little bit of backstory here that'll kind of give you a better picture. 20 years ago, like I said, in my first meet, I was 16 years old. And the reason that I benched raw at that meet, right, I did everything raw, but was not because it was cool to do raw. Raw wasn't even a thing, okay? It was like a term that I had heard like loosely, but no one really talked about it. It was just kind of not wearing gear. We had 3 bench shirts at my school, and I couldn't really use any of them, and I couldn't bench as much weight with the shirt as I could without, so that was why I did it, okay? At that meet, there was maybe 40 lifters, and everybody was geared except me. We did a meet, my team did a meet, and I'm getting to your question here. This is, I'm painting a little bit of a picture here. I did a meet with my team recently. There was 210 lifters at the meet. There's 1 geared squat. There has been in my lifetime, in my career in powerlifting, a huge transition from geared lifting to raw lifting. There were some exceptionally muscled geared lifters, okay? I'm not saying that that's not the case. Raw lifting, that muscularity is essential, it's protective. You absolutely need that. Whereas in geared lifting, it was a little bit less essential, I think. It was more, you know, you have a very strong internally rotating force for the bench shirt, it's very protective. You need to there was a necessity, and if you look at how everyone looks now at the top, these guys are monsters. They look almost like bodybuilders. So a lot of that came from before, where the easiest way, when I started lifting, the first thing they told you was, if you want to get stronger, put on weight. That was it. Eat anything you can. Eat a whole pizza after you train. That was the kind of shit that we did. We would eat as much as possible and just kind of pack weight on. Now, I think that people are getting a little bit more thoughtful with the way that they're handling nutrition. And it shows in the way that people look, you know. I was just talking, I just had dinner with Zahir, I'm friends with Zahir Kudraw, if you know who that is. Just squat 1,100 pounds in training raw. That dude is jacked. He looks like a pro bodybuilder. And we were talking about nutrition, and he was saying how it's such a priority for him to eat really clean. You know, he notices that he can perform better when he eats clean. So, I mean, it is something that has kind of swept across powerlifting, where now it's kind of transitioned from where everybody was eating cheesesteaks and pizzas and hoagies and kind of stuffing as many calories as they could in their face, into where now there's a legitimate concern for nutrition, and it's become a consideration. So, I mean, there's a lot of options out there as far as what you can do. There's some pretty good templates. Honestly, I used to do nutrition counseling. I used to do like diet coaching and so forth, and even into getting people prepared for bodybuilding contests when I was younger. I've kind of lost all interest in that because it's a pretty simple equation. So honestly, those templates really do what most diet coaches do. It's just that easy. It's not, people are individual, but they're not that different. You know, there are some individual variances, but I mean, for the most part, we're all human beings. We're the same kind of organisms. We need the same things. It's easy to scale it based on body weight, and assuming that body fat percentage is not crazy, I would recommend those templates that are out there. Like there's
It's worth, to me at least, it was worth working with somebody for a short period of time to understand some of those simple principles. Especially as a female, you're probably best off working with another female. Dave has talked about it a lot with Yessie. Just doesn't understand why most females go to a guy for nutrition or strength. Or it's a good thing, but you can also learn a lot from somebody of the same gender. So something to think about. Yeah. Nobody else heard that. That's not good.
I know.
So, but it's very individual.
He's right. You're absolutely right about learning the skills of it. There's a skill set involved, but it's kind of like anything else. You go to school or you take a course or you learn from someone to learn about what you're doing, and you learn how to do it by actually fucking doing it. You're gonna learn for yourself how you're gonna be able to handle things by developing your own sort of ways of doing it. But.
So I think to build on what Sweet said too with that is that you did see, if you look to the power lifters of say like the 70s and early 80s, everybody was jacked.
We're all jacked, yeah.
And so for me, I came from a similar background. It was football, and I trained for football. Then I came into powerlifting, and I was always really strong raw, and that was, you know what I mean? Like
time period, there was some super strong.
I incline benched, 600 pounds raw, but I was competing in a shirt because that's what everybody was doing. But to me, I wanted to be fucking jacked and big, and so that's my look, and so I did watch my nutrition to be better at that. Was I perfect? No, because I wasn't getting on fucking stage in banana hammock, but like it was pretty, it was pretty good. And so I think, like what Sweet's saying, I think there's going to be a transition where so many people, and I think CrossFit has a lot to do with it because it's opening people's eyes up to the fact that, because one, there's a ton of money behind it, so there's a lot of publicity and marketing and branding behind it, and so women are seeing these women lift weights and look good and lean, and they're like, hey, my fat ass is walking on the treadmill, it's not helping. Right. So
for 3 years.
Yeah, for the last 3 years, right? So it's opening people's eyes up to the fact that weights can be very beneficial for looking better, feeling better, being toned, which is
the best thing that's come out of that, in my opinion. Out of CrossFit is put barbells in the hands of a lot of people that would just never have fucking touched them otherwise, and they end up moving into lifting and other.
Yeah, and I think that's like, I've seen a lot of people who started kind of, I went to CrossFit and now I really want to do powerlifting, or I really want to do Olympics. So it's been a great thing for that from exposure.
I have a few of those. Actually.
Yeah, and so I think the transition has been like, it was raw, then the gear stuff came out and it was new and everybody did it and it became big explosion. But now, because there's been such an influx, like everybody in this room is new. And so there's been such an influx of new people. Now raw powerlifting has become, so in another 5 to 10 years, gear is gonna become cool again. Because
I see single ply coming back now.
Because everybody,
road,
because everybody who's gotten in now under this kind of, I don't want to say explosion, but this repopularization of training with a barbell in your hand, that now once they start to go from the beginner to the novice to the elite, like as you move up and they get to those elite levels, there becomes a ceiling, then I think gear will start to go back on, and we're kind of starting to see that a little bit. So there's going to be,
get banged up. I mean, like I've been doing this 20 years. I'm in pieces, so that's why I'm like,
throw a shirt on.
I want to put some.
Did we touch on?
See what I can do with that.
So, did we cover that?
But here's
we're
the
fucking over here.
Here's the point. At the end of
we started here.
Yeah, we're here, but we come back to here. At the end of the day, everyone wants to look good naked. So the average person isn't trying to set world records. So the nutrition part of it is imperative. It's imperative. And from an inflammatory response, that's a huge thing too. So if you're putting fried chicken and shit into your body every day, your inflammatory response will be high. So then your tendons gonna hurt, everything's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt when you squat. So now, like, it's not just about like, okay, am I performing? Am I doing this? Like in the spot, we talk with our athletes, like your nutrition is fuel for your performance. Right. And we don't, especially with our young athletes, we don't look at it as, with our adults, of course, they want to look good naked, but with our kids, obviously we're not looking at them naked. But with the kids, it's all about fuel as performance for your body. So when you're talking about like when they come in, our philosophy at the spot with our adults as well is, yes, everyone's coming in there to lower and body composition, but we talk to them about nutrition in a performance aspect, Because if they're eating to perform better, to feel better, their joints are feeling better, they have better mental clarity because they're not sugared up all day long and crashing. That performance increases, they feel better, they look better, and they're stronger because they're doing the right movement.
Being jacked is just like a side effect of that. You know, it just ends up
sweet
happening.
side effect.
Yeah,
Awesomeness is a side effect.
it's a bonus.